Ohio State 20, Penn State 12, wrapping up our coverage from the shoe in Columbus on a day where the Buckeyes were certainly good enough defensively to win. But I want to ask the question, how would we grade Kyle McCord's performance on a day where I think maybe there's a lot of people looking for reasons why Ohio State isn't the team they want to, the team that they should admit probably that Ohio State is. When you're the top of the mountain, when you're the king of the castle, there's always criticism that comes your way, and so people are always looking for a reason to say, well, you're not quite as good, or you're not good enough to do this or that or whatever. Kyle McCord's a winner. He's never lost a game that he started. Today he went 22 of 35 with 286 through the air, 1 touchdown pass, and for the 7th game in a row did not throw an interception. Was he perfect? No. He was definitely not perfect. But Anthony, he still figured out a way to get it done. You played quarterback in college. How would you How would you grade Kyle McCord's performance?
So that's the answer to the question. How do you finish? What do you look like in the fourth quarter? Because when you look at his stat line, his stats are really good. 22 of 35, good. 286 yards, very good. 1 touchdown, no picks, exactly what you want. And the game didn't feel great, throughout the way. But what did we say yesterday or, our last show? Like, every drive ended in a punt. Do not turn the ball over. Now, we got lucky. We didn't get lucky. There was a penalty on the 1 turnover we had that turned into a touchdown that came back. But every other drive ended with a kicker on the field, whether that's your punter or whether that's your kicker. And, think back to some of those critical drives. And we've talked about it a little bit. And one of the key turning points of the game is a 78-yard punt from the back of the end zone that flips the field position because guess what? You took a sack or we had an incompletion or whatever, but you didn't throw a pick in the red zone and you didn't fumble the football and you allowed your defense to go make plays. That's a winning play. Yeah, sure, you want to move the sticks and do things like that. So I think back to those things. And then what you want to do is look at the fourth quarter and what happens when the chips are down. Like, hey, when you need a drive, what does Kyle do? He goes on a 90-yard drive, or he gets them into scoring positions, or he throws a touchdown on 3rd and 11. And that's the big boy stuff that you look at. So regardless of, how the stats fall or whatever it looks like early on, how do you perform in the fourth quarter when your team needs you? And Kyle McCord passes that test 10 out of 10 times.
I asked Kyle post-game, I said, look, I know you're playing this game, right? You're not thinking about other games in the season or other moments. You're not worried about how you did against Notre Dame. But you had played in an environment that was loud and with a lot of pressure, and you had to play well against a really good team. And you orchestrated that big drive at the end of the game against Notre Dame that ultimately got it done. And I essentially asked him, like, if that performance in the recent weeks, and certainly manifesting today, did it actually make you more comfortable, or are we just making something of that? And he said, no, it did. I mean, once you do it, you realize you're capable of it, and you trust the guys around you. And he said, look, I need to be able to step up in the pocket a little bit more, and maybe the timing was just a smidge off a few times where, he put the ball on a receiver just a little too early or a little too late, and there was an incomplete pass. But for the most part, he was poised against a defensive line that was among the country's best in getting to the quarterback coming in. They've got probably 3 defensive ends that are going to play in the NFL. And he had to fight his way to, a day that he wasn't going to put up ridiculous numbers, but he had the poise, the composure, the confidence to go out and do it. And I don't really judge a game by, what were the numbers that he put up? He looked the part to me today when he had to just take care of the ball, play the field position game, and go out and execute.
Yeah, and beyond the defensive line being very, very good, he threw for 286 yards against 2 cornerbacks that are going to be, one's going to be a first-round pick, the other's going to be in the NFL. Like, you don't just do that. You don't just roll out of bed and do that. And he looked good. And I have 2 other thoughts on those notes. One, I would start with the coaching point that I would have coming out of today is he needs to be just a hair more accurate, whether that's timing, whether that's this or that. Like, there's a couple that we're just a touch off. And it's like, to this point, we've been saying like, hey, it's going to come back to bite you, or, we'll see what happens against a better team. Like we saw what happened against a better team. Yes, you didn't complete a ball. We punted it away. Fine. And he responded, and he did great in that response. And the second, it goes back to the point that you had made. Not only is it important for you to have that belief that, hey, I can do this in the most high pressure situations, it's important for the other 10 guys in the huddle to look at number 6 and be like, I watched him go down the field against Notre Dame under the lights in front of 12 million people watching and lead us to a touchdown drive. It's important for Ryan Day and Brian Hartline to believe that in their quarterback as well. And then he believes it too. So, having those like stored away, like those big games stored away, is not only huge for him personally, but huge for the rest of his team to understand that they have a guy who they're always going to be in the game regardless of the situation. So, a grade for me, it's hard to do without looking at the tape. I would say the first thing that comes to mind is somewhere in the B to B plus range. A gets you when you're 30 of 35 for 330, 3 scores. That's kind of where I'm at. I thought he played very, very well today.
I agree. And look, I thought he maybe shook off a somewhat slow start because there were some moments early in the game that didn't look great. But let's acknowledge the fact that Penn State's defense has been really good this year. So I agree with you. Without watching the tape, my gut reaction is also probably right around a B or a B+. Didn't turn the ball over, always gave his team a chance. I know it sounds silly, but like sometimes taking a sack is the best thing to do rather than just chucking it up and hoping something happens. I thought he played with good composure. I thought his leadership was good, and he continues to play with more and more confidence. So a good day for Kyle McCord for sure. For all the latest on Kyle and the Buckeyes, big win over Penn State this afternoon, 20-12 in this top 10 showdown in Columbus. Head over to BuckeyesNow.com.